My name is Emily Carter. I'm 31 years old, and 3 days before I was supposed to sign the papers for my first home, my sister tried to sabotage everything. Not in a figurative sense. Literally, she called my bank, my mortgage broker, and even my real estate agent, and told them I was under investigation for financial fraud. Just a few hours later, the bank paused the approval of my loan. That employee stopped answering my calls, and the house, the little blue house on Maple Street that I had spent 4 years saving up to buy, suddenly no longer belonged to me. But that wasn't even the worst part. The worst part was that by the time I found out what she had done, half my family had already believed her. They believe I am mentally unstable. I spent money carelessly. Buying a house on your own is a mistake. For 2 days straight, I sat in my apartment, staring at my phone, reading messages from relatives asking if I was okay. In the cautious way people usually ask when they think someone is quietly down. But there's one thing my sister doesn't know. Someone has noticed that. Someone noticed how she talked about me during family meals. The way she asks strange questions about my finances. She kept trying to help with paperwork that didn't belong to her. And months before everything exploded, that person has started gathering evidence. A phone call, email, voicemail, every single detail. So when my sister thought she had finally ruined my future, she had absolutely no idea that she had just walked straight into a trap. Before I tell you what happens next, please leave a comment below. Have you ever experienced a situation where a family member tried to sabotage your life? Because sometimes the people who should be supporting you the most are the ones secretly sabotaging everything. To understand why things have come to this point, you need to know a little about my family. I grew up in a quiet town called Brookfield, the kind where everyone knew each other's last names and every story spread throughout town before the day ended. People there had excellent memories, and family reputation was more important than most people admit. In my family, there have always been two very different people. My older sister, Megan, is the most confident person. She has a loud laugh, a fiery temper, and the kind of person who fills a room with life the moment she walks in. My parents often say she has leadership qualities. Then it was my turn. I am a quieter person, a cautious person, a rule-abiding child who finished homework early and worried about disappointing others more than anything else. Throughout my upbringing, that difference shaped everything. If Megan gets into an argument with someone, people say she's strong. But if I argue, I'm told I'm overreacting. If Megan takes risks, my parents call it ambition. But if I make a mistake, they say I need to be more responsible. So while Megan was constantly chasing opportunities and changing direction every few years, I was building my life slowly. I became an accountant at a regional shipping company. It wasn't a glamorous job, but it was stable. I understood the numbers in a way that sometimes others didn't. If something didn't match, you could always trace it back and find the answer. For many years, my habits have remained virtually unchanged. Job, family, save money. I still drive that old car. I still live in that small apartment. I still skip vacations and late-night shopping trips. All surplus funds are allocated to a single purpose. I bought my first house. By the age of 31, I had saved enough money for a down payment on a home loan. After 4 years of consistent saving, the bank finally approved my mortgage. Everything is ready. There are only 3 days left until the deadline. And that's when my sister decided to intervene. If you had asked me a year ago whether my sister ever tried to sabotage me, I would have. It's not because Megan and I are special, but there are certain boundaries that you believe your family will never cross. You're arguing. Some, but you shouldn't ruin each other's lives. At least, that's what I believe. From a young age, Megan was always the center of attention in our house. She had a strong personality, big plan, and a confidence that made everyone follow her without much questioning. My parents really admire that about her. People often say she will be a resounding success. I'm different. I like structure, predictability, balanced numbers at the end of the day. While Megan pursues big dreams, I focus on small steps. For many years, that difference didn't cause any problems. Our lives simply diverge in different directions. But when I started saving money to buy a house, everything changed. It started slowly. The first time Megan visited the place with me, She went through each room as if she were thoroughly inspecting it. The house wasn't big. 2 bedrooms, a small courtyard, white exterior walls with blue shutters. But to me, it felt incredibly spacious, because it was the first thing in my life that truly belonged to me. I remember standing in the kitchen, explaining where I intended to place the table. Megan leaned against the counter, arms crossed. "Are you sure you can afford this?" she asked. I laughed. "I've been saving for 4 years," she nodded. But her eyes still darted around the room. "You know, owning a house comes with a lot of responsibilities," she said. "Repairs, property taxes, maintenance." I know. Sometimes people rush into things like this. I didn't pay attention to that advice at the time. Older siblings often give advice. It's normal. But over the next few weeks, the comments continued to appear. During a family dinner, she casually mentioned how stressful homeownership can be. On another occasion, she joked that I was always too cautious with money and that perhaps I had overinvested. Then one evening, she asked a question that I still remember. "Which bank approved your mortgage loan?" I told her. "Who is your credit officer?" I hesitated for a moment, then replied. She smiled. Almost naturally, it's good to know that, after that conversation, she didn't mention the house again. In fact, she seemed strangely supportive. She sent me the following text messages. "I'm proud of you. I'm really looking forward to seeing it when you move in. Looking back now, that sudden change should have made me suspicious. But when you want to believe someone is on your side, you often overlook small details that don't really make sense." 3 days before the transaction was finalized, everything seemed perfect. The paperwork is ready. The bank has approved the loan. My real estate agent has scheduled the final inspection. That Monday night, I went to bed thinking that the hardest part was over. What I didn't know was that my sister had called me that afternoon, and by the next morning, the whole agreement began to fall apart. After hanging up with Megan, I sat motionless on the sofa. My small apartment suddenly became eerily quiet. I could hear the ticking of the wall clock in the living room, each tick like a countdown. 3 days. I only have 3 days left to sign the papers to buy the house. 4 years of saving. 4 years of refusing to travel. For 4 years, I drove that old car that rattled every time it got cold, all for a small house on Maple Street. And with just one phone call, everything started to fall apart. I opened my laptop and logged into my email. My inbox had a new message from the real estate agency. The email subject line made my heart sink immediately. "Emily, we need to talk urgently." I opened my email. The content consists of only a few short lines. "We have just received some information regarding your financial situation. Before proceeding with the contract, we need to verify it further." I read that sentence 3 times. Your financial situation. Without much thought, I knew exactly where that information came from. Megan. But what sent chills down my spine was another detail. She didn't just call the bank. She called the entire brokerage firm. That means she's trying to sabotage it. The entire transaction. I picked up the phone and called my agent, Sarah. She answered the phone almost immediately. "Emily, I was just about to call you," Sarah said. "What's going on?" Sarah took a deep breath. "We received a call this morning from someone claiming to be your sister." I closed my eyes. "What did she say?" "She said you're in serious financial trouble and might not be able to repay the loan." I laughed. That same dry, forced laugh again. "Sarah, you've been working with me for 2 months now. You know that's not true." "I know," Sarah said quickly. "But when someone issues a warning like that, the company has to check it out." "What does that mean?" "This means the contract could be delayed until things are clear." Delay. I looked at the calendar on the wall. The contract will be signed in 3 days. If the signing is delayed, the seller has the right to cancel the transaction. That house might be sold to someone else. 4 years of savings can disappear in just a few days. I put the phone down and sat there for a long time. My mind started replaying the past few months. These are the questions Megan asked me. She wants to know which bank would lend me money. She wants to know the name of the person in charge of the loan. She wants to know the name of the brokerage firm. At the time, I thought it was just normal curiosity, but now everything is starting to fit together into a complete picture. Megan doesn't act impulsively. She prepares for this, one step at a time. She gathers information. Then, at the most opportune moment, she started making phone calls. I picked up the phone again. This time, I didn't call Megan. I called my parents. My mother answered the phone. Emily. Mom, do you know what Megan did? My mother was silent for a few seconds. Your sister is just worried about you. I felt my heart sink. Does Mom know about this? She just thinks I'm in a hurry. Mom, do you know he called my bank? Emily. Don't overreact. I stood up from my chair. I've been saving for this house for 4 years. Houses are not a joke. Megan is trying to sabotage my deal. On the other end of the line, my mother sighed. Your sister just wants to make sure you don't make any mistakes. I realized something that sent chills down my spine. Megan didn't act alone. My family, at least in part, sided with her. I hung up the phone. The apartment fell silent again. But this time, the silence was different from before. I previously thought I was facing a disruptive call. Now I understand that I am facing the real war. And if I don't do something immediately, then in 3 days, the house that I spent 4 years trying to achieve, it will disappear. I barely slept that night. I lay on the old sofa in my apartment, staring at the ceiling, my mind racing with hundreds of thoughts. Part of me still can't believe Megan could do that. But the rest of me, the more lucid part, began to understand something. This didn't happen spontaneously. It has been calculated. If Megan only wanted to warn the bank, she wouldn't need to call the brokerage firm as well. If she was just worried about me, she would have talked to me first. But she didn't do that. She went straight to the people in power. It ruined the deal. The next morning, I woke up earlier than usual. Not because I wanted to. That's because I barely slept. I made some coffee, opened my laptop, and started rereading all the emails from the past 2 months. Contract, bank documents, negotiations with brokers. Everything is normal. No errors. There are no bad debts. There are no financial problems. But I still have a feeling of unease. If Megan had called the bank, and I called the broker, it's very likely she called. For other people as well. Around 9 o'clock in the morning, my phone rang. Some strange ones. I hesitated for a few seconds before answering the phone. Emily Carter. Yes, we're calling from the bank's legal office. We need to verify some information. My heart was pounding. What information? We have received reports that there may be a financial dispute within the family related to the deposit. I jumped up from my chair. There is no dispute whatsoever. We just need to verify. I took a deep breath. May I ask who told you that? On the other end of the line, the man was silent for a second. Then he replied, a family member. I don't need to ask any further questions. After hanging up, I stood silently in the middle of the room. Megan didn't just make phone calls. She is build a story in which I am the unstable one, a story in which the bank had to suspect me, a story strong enough to cause the deal to fall apart. I opened my phone and looked at my contacts. Megan's name immediately came to mind. I want to call her again. I want to yell into the phone. I want to ask why. But then I remembered something. Megan always argues that way. The way she turns every story around. The way she makes others feel like they're overreacting. If I called her right now, I'm just stepping into her game. I put the phone down. Instead, I called the only person I trusted at the time, Lucas. Lucas is a close friend of mine from college. He currently works in corporate law in a city about an hour's drive from here. He answered the phone after 2 rings. Emily, what's wrong? I told the whole story. From David's call, go to the brokerage firm's email. Then Megan told the bank that I had financial problems. Lucas was silent for a few seconds after I finished speaking. Then he asked a very simple question. Do you have any proof? What does that mean? Do you have any text messages, emails, or audio recordings that prove your sister is lying? I shook my head. Are not? Lucas let out a soft sigh. Emily, the issue isn't whether you're right or wrong. The problem is that the bank needs proof. I sat down in the chair. So what should I do? Lucas thought for a few seconds. First, you must prove that there are no financial disputes. Monday, he stopped. You need to understand one thing. What? My sisters won't stop just because you ask them to. That statement silenced me. Lucas continued. If your sister was ready to call the bank and the real estate agent, then she's decided that you buying the house is something she doesn't want to happen. I looked out the window. The morning sunlight streamed into the small room, the apartment where I lived for 4 years. I always thought of it as just a temporary place to stay. I was supposed to move out in 3 days, Lucas continued, his voice becoming more serious. Emily, you need to prepare for the possibility that your sister will continue to cause trouble. What does that mean? She can call other people. My chest tightened. Seller, brokerage, bank, anyone involved in the transaction. I swallowed hard. So what should I do? Lucas replied immediately. You have to take the first step. How? He said something that I didn't fully understand at the time. I have to tell you my story before my sisters told it. I sat still, thinking about that statement. And for the first time since it all began, I realized this. If I do nothing, Megan will decide how the story ends. But if I act now, perhaps I still have a chance to save my house. And that's when I started making a plan. After hanging up with Lucas, I sat in silence for a long time. One of his words kept repeating in my head. You have to tell your story before your sister tells hers. Before that, I was just reacting. I made a phone call. I explained. I tried to prove that Megan was lying, but Lucas was right. In the eyes of the bank, the broker, and everyone involved in the transaction. They didn't know whether I or Megan was right. They only see these are two different stories. And when there's any doubt involving money, they'll always choose the safe option. That means stop trading. I looked at my watch. 9:40 a.m. The contract will be signed in 3 days. If I don't get the situation under control now, that house will be gone. I opened my laptop and started writing an email. The first email was sent to David, the person in charge of the loan. Title: Clarification regarding false financial allegations. I wrote very carefully. Don't get angry. Emotionless. That's just the truth. I explained that a family member was trying to interfere with the transaction for personal reasons. I'm attaching my credit report, bank statement for the past 6 months, employment contract, income confirmation letter from the company, all the things that prove my financial situation, stability, and transparency. Then I wrote a second email to Sarah, the broker. This time I'm being more direct. I want to make it clear that there is a personal dispute within the family, and Megan is spreading misinformation. I apologize for the inconvenience, but I assure you that all my financial documents are valid. After sending the email, I leaned back in my chair. That's just the first step. Lucas is right. I have to get one step ahead of Megan, but I still have one big question. Why did Megan do this? It's not just because of worry. It's not just because they think I'm not ready. There's something else. One motive I don't understand. Around 11 o'clock in the morning, my phone rang. A message from Naomi. Naomi Reed is my best friend from college. She lives a few blocks away from me and often drops by my apartment on weekends. Her message was very short. Hey, are you free to chat? I'll call back right away. Naomi answered the phone almost immediately. Emily, I heard about your house. I frowned. Where did you hear that from? Naomi hesitated for a few seconds. From Megan. My heart sank. What did Megan say? Naomi lowered her voice. She said, I'm in serious financial trouble, and the bank might cancel the loan. I gripped the phone tightly. Megan didn't just talk to the bank. She has told that story to everyone. Naomi, I said. That's a lie. I know. Naomi's answer surprised me. Do you know? Because Megan called me yesterday. For what? Naomi exhaled. She asked me if I had ever borrowed money from her. I jumped to my feet. What? She said I might be hiding some debt. A chill ran down my spine. Megan is collecting witness. She's trying to create a narrative where I'm the one with financial problems. What did she say? I asked. Naomi replied immediately. She said that I had never borrowed a single penny from her. I exhaled. But Naomi continued. Emily, there's one more thing. What's wrong? Megan asked me if she had ever asked me to sign any financial documents or put my name on any paperwork for her. I felt dizzy. It's no longer just simple disruption. That is a campaign, Naomi continued. At that time, I found it very strange, so I asked her about it. What did she say? Naomi was silent for a few seconds. Then he said, "She said that if the bank finds out I can't afford to repay the loan, they'll cancel the transaction before it's too late." I sat down in the chair. In my mind, I started piecing together all the fragments. Megan asked about the bank, asked about the broker, asked about savings. And now, she's asking my friends too. She doesn't just want to delay the transaction. She wants proof that I am untrustworthy. "Emily," Naomi said softly, "I think you should be careful." "Why?" "Because of the way Megan talks." Naomi stopped. "She sounds like someone trying prevent this from happening at all costs." I looked out the window. Sunlight streamed down the small street outside the apartment. The house on Maple Street is only a 10-minute drive away, a place I've been imagining for 4 years. And now, it's becoming the center of a family feud. But at that time, I still didn't know one thing. The calls Megan made, it's just the first part of the plan. Because that night, I would discover a truth that would make things much worse. That afternoon, I barely put down my phone. Every time the screen lights up, my heart beats faster. A new email, a new call, a new message. Anything could be a sign that Megan has just done something again. Around 4 o'clock in the afternoon, David, the person in charge of my loan, called back. "Emily, I received your email." "Yes, I have reviewed all the documents you sent." I held my breath. "And, financially, your application is perfectly fine." A part of me feels relieved. But David continued, "However, I hate the word 'however' in such calls. We still need to clarify some information." "What information?" "The person who called us said that your deposit might be related to a family dispute." I closed my eyes. "What did Megan say to you?" David hesitated for a moment. "She said that some of your savings might belong to your family and that using that money to buy a house could lead to legal disputes." I laughed. This time, I'm genuinely laughing because the story is so absurd. "All of that money is my savings." "I trust you," David said, "but the bank needs verification." "How?" "We need to prove that no family member has the right to claim that money." I feel tired. "David, that's my salary." "I get it. No one has a right to that money." "I get it. So why do we still have to do this?" David sighed. "Because the caller said that it might be possible. Internal family financial agreements." Internal financial agreement. I can hardly believe Megan made up this story. "Emily," David continued, "I need you to confirm something." "What?" "In the past 4 years, has anyone in your family transferred money into your savings account?" I thought for a second. "Are not. No assistance. Are not. No loan. Are not." David was silent for a few seconds. "Okay," he said. "I'll take note of that." After hanging up, I leaned back in my chair. Megan has gone further than I imagined. She didn't just say I had financial problems. She is trying to create a legal dispute. If the bank believes the deposit may belong to the family, they have every right to cancel the loan. My phone vibrated again. A message from Naomi. "Emily, I just heard something else." "I'll call back right away." Naomi answered the phone. "What's going on?" Her voice sounded more serious than it had this morning. "Emily, I just saw Megan." I sat up straight. "Where?" "At the coffee shop near my place." "What did she say?" Naomi exhaled. "She asked me a very strange question." "What sentence?" "She asked if I knew her. Are you hiding any money somewhere?" I barely understood that sentence. Hiding money. She said that I might be holding a large sum of money that my family doesn't know about. I felt dizzy. "Naomi, she's making it up." "I know." "What did you say to her?" "She said that I work hard and save money on my own." Naomi paused for a moment. "But Emily, there's something that I find very strange." "What?" "The way Megan talks." "What does that mean?" Naomi thought for a few seconds. "She doesn't sound like someone who's worried." "So what does it resemble?" Naomi answered slowly. "Like someone trying to prove something." I remained silent. Naomi continued. "Emily, I think Megan is trying to find someone to corroborate her story." I looked at the wall in front of me. An idea began to form in my mind. If Megan is looking witness, this means she's preparing for the next step. "Naomi," I asked, "did she say anything else?" Naomi hesitated. She said that if the bank found out the truth, my house purchase would be halted before it was too late. Too late. That's exactly the word she used. I felt a chill down my spine. Only one question remained in my mind. Too late for whom? For me? Or is it for Megan? Because at that time, I didn't know one thing. Megan wasn't just trying to sabotage the deal. She is trying. It prevented me from discovering a secret. And that secret will completely change the story. That evening, I drove to the house on Maple Street. I didn't make an appointment with the real estate agent beforehand. I didn't tell anyone that I was coming either. I just needed to see it. The small house sat quietly under the streetlights. A white wooden fence surrounded it, and the lawn in front was still slightly wet from the recently completed irrigation system. I stood on the sidewalk for a few minutes, looking out the living room window. In 3 days, this place should have been my home. But then, I started thinking about what Naomi had said. Megan didn't sound like someone who was worried. She sounds like someone who is trying to prove something. To whom should I prove it? Bank, family, or with herself. I sat back in the car and opened my phone. There's one thing I hadn't thought about before. If Megan is saying that my savings are related to my family, that means she's trying to create a story within it. That money doesn't entirely belong to me. But why? I opened my banking app and looked back at my savings account history. 4 years. Hundreds of small money transfers. $500, $700, $1, $200. It all comes from my salary account. There was no unusual money. No transfers were made from family. There's nothing suspicious. But when I scrolled down to the oldest trades, I realized something I had never noticed before. 4 years ago, the same month I opened my savings account, there was another transaction. A transfer $2,000, not from my salary account. I frowned. The sender's name appears on the screen. Megan Carter. I sat motionless in the car. I have absolutely no recollection of this money. Why did Megan transfer money to me? I clicked on the transaction details. Date of money transfer. 4 years ago. Content. For now. Just 2 words. For now, temporary. A strange sensation ran down my spine. 4 years ago, when I started saving money to buy a house, Megan transferred $2,000 to me. And now, she's telling the bank that my savings might be linked to family. I looked back at my phone screen. A terrifying thought began to form. Is Megan trying to prove that did part of the deposit belong to her? If that's true, then the whole story she was building started to make sense. She doesn't just want to sabotage the house purchase. She wanted to prove that the house, it doesn't entirely belong to me. I sat in the car for a few more minutes, staring at my phone screen. The $2,000 payment from Megan is still visible in the transaction history. 4 years ago. It was the perfect time for me to start saving money to buy a house. I tried to remember what had happened at that time. Initially, everything was very vague. 4 years is a long enough time for the small details to fade from memory. But then, a memory began to resurface. 4 years ago, Megan was having trouble with money. One of her business ventures just failed. I remember she was trying to sell clothes online and lost a lot of money on unsold inventory. One evening, Megan came to my apartment. She looks very stressed. We sat at the small table in the kitchen. Megan said she needed to transfer some money into my account temporarily. Why? I asked at the time. It's only temporary, she said. The guy I was dating at the time was having problems with his bank account. I didn't want the money sitting in my account for a while. I remember finding it a bit strange, but Megan is my older sister. I believe her. A few days later, $2,000 appeared in my account. I even asked Megan when she wanted it back. She just smiled and said, "Just keep it. I'll let you know when I need it." But Megan never said anything. Time passed. I started saving money. That account gradually grew little by little. $500, $1, $0, $5, $0, $10, $0. And then I completely forgot about that initial $2, $0. Until tonight. I looked back at the text in the transaction. For now, temporary. Suddenly, everything became clear. Megan didn't just disrupt the deal. She is preparing to reclaim her rights to that money. If she could convince the bank that a portion of the deposit belonged to her, then the entire transaction could be suspended due to a financial dispute. But what chilled me wasn't the $2. 000. Money is not an issue. The issue is intention. Megan waited 4 years. It took 4 years for that money to sit in my account. 4 years for it to become part of a larger savings plan. And that's right when I was about to buy a house. She showed up and said that the money didn't entirely belong to me. I put the phone down on the chair. Megan's plan was starting to become clear in my mind. She doesn't need to prove that all the money belongs to her. She just needs to create suspicion. Just make the bank believe there's a dispute. Just delay the transaction long enough. The seller will withdraw. The house will disappear. And my 4-year dream will end. I looked up at the house in front of me. The living room lights were still off. The street is quiet. But at that moment, I knew one thing. Megan thought she was in control of the narrative. She thought that $2,000 was her weapon. But she forgot one very important thing. I also have evidence. And if Megan wants to turn this into a legal battle, for the first time in my life, I am ready to fight to the very end. I didn't go straight home that night. Instead, I drove to Megan's apartment. Throughout the journey, I had only one thought in my mind. I need to hear Megan herself say what she's trying to do, not through the bank, not through a broker, but directly. Megan's apartment was on the 3rd floor of an old building near the city center. I'd been there many times before, but that night everything felt completely different. It felt like I was walking into a confrontation. I knocked on the door. About 10 seconds later, Megan opened the door. She saw me and was a little surprised. "Emily, what are you doing here?" "I won't beat around the bush. We need to talk." Megan leaned against the doorframe. "I guess it's about the house. Regarding the $2,000. The smile on her face vanished in a very brief moment, but I saw it. "What money?" Megan asked. 4 years ago. She transferred $2,000 into my account. She remained silent. I took out my phone and opened my transaction history. May 12th. Details of the money transfer. For now. Megan stared at the screen for a few seconds. Then she let out a soft sigh. "Oh, you still have that. I'm telling the bank that your savings could belong to your family." She just said they should check. She's trying to prove that the money belongs to her. Megan shrugged. "Maybe." I looked her straight in the eyes. "You waited 4 years to do this." She didn't answer immediately. Instead, Megan stepped back into the apartment and gestured for me to come in. I walked into the living room. The room was messier than I remembered. Megan sat down on the sofa. "Emily," she said, "you're misunderstanding the situation. Then explain it." She crossed her arms. "You helped me start that savings fund. $2,000 is not the starting point, but it's my money. She told me to keep it. She said temporary. I felt anger starting to well up inside me. It's been 4 years. Megan, I never said you could use it to buy a house. I could hardly believe it. $2,000 can't decide that." Megan tilted her head and looked at me. "It's not $2,000. So what is it?" She looked straight at me, and then say something that makes everything clear. "I don't want you to buy that house." The room suddenly fell silent. "Why?" I asked. Megan smiled softly. It's not a joyful laugh. It's the kind of laugh someone gets when they finally say something they've kept inside for a long time. "Because," she said, "I'm always the one who gets everything done according to plan." I remained silent. "I have a stable job. I'm saving money. I'm buying a house." Megan shook her head. "What about you?" I looked at her. "This is not a competition. But I always win." That statement made me realize something I had never noticed before. This has never been about money. Never had any involvement with banking. Never had any connection to the house. It's related to Megan. And the feeling that, for the first time in my life, she's losing. After Megan said that, the room fell silent. I always win. I stood there for a few seconds, trying to understand what she had just said. In my mind, my life has never felt like a victory. I'm just working, save, and try to build a stable life. But Megan sees things in a completely different way. "This isn't a competition," I said slowly. Megan laughed. "That's just my opinion." She got up from the sofa and walked to the window. The streetlights shone into the room, making Megan's face look more tired than usual. "Emily, You've always been the right child in the family." I said nothing. "I have a stable job. I don't cause trouble. I always do everything according to plan." She turned and looked at me. "And you're always the one who makes our parents worry." Her tone was no longer sarcastic. Only bitterness remains. "But the worst thing," Megan continued, "is that I always make everything look easy." I frowned. "Nothing is easy. Do you think you don't know I've been saving for 4 years?" "I know. Do you know how many things I've overlooked?" "I know." Megan crossed her arms. "But the result is still the same." "What do you mean?" "I'm about to buy a house." She said that as if it were an unacceptable truth. "And you can't let that happen?" I asked. Megan didn't answer immediately, but her eyes gave me the answer. "I actually called your bank," I said. "Yes, I'll call the real estate agent. Yes, I'll call your friend. I just want to ask a few questions." I shook my head. "You're trying to ruin my life." "No," Megan said. "I'm slowing it down. You have no right to do that. She has money in that account, too. $0. It's your money." I took a deep breath. "Megan, if you want that money, I'll transfer it back to you." She looked at me. "It's not that simple. So what do you want?" Megan was silent for a few seconds. Then he said, "I want you to understand how I feel." I could hardly believe my ears. "Are you ruining my house purchase? Just so I understand how you feel." "That's not all." "So what else?" Megan looked down at the floor. "I used to think I would be the first person to buy a house." I said nothing. "She's my older sister. She's always the one leading the way." She smiled sadly. "But look, I get it. It's not because Megan hates me. It's not because she wants the money. Because that house, for her, was proof that my life was moving forward." While she remained standing still, "Megan," I said more softly, "this isn't about who came first. For me, yes, you're hurting me. You're slowing me down. You're ruining 4 years of my hard work." She didn't object. I looked around Megan's apartment. The boxes are unopened. Papers were piled up on the desk. Her life looks chaotic. I turned to look at her. "Megan." She looked up. "I'll send you the $2,000 tomorrow." "Emily, are not," I interrupted him. "It's not because I owe you anything." Megan looked at me, slightly surprised. "Because I don't want you to have any reason to continue doing this." She remained silent. "After you transfer the money," I said, "I'll call the bank back. I can't force you." "Are not." I looked her straight in the eyes. "But if you continue to lie, I will have to tell the truth." "What do you mean?" "I'll tell the bank that you're trying to sabotage the transaction for personal reasons." Megan frowned. "Would you do that to your own sister?" I answered very calmly. "If you continue to ruin my life, then there's a problem." The room was silent for a long time. Finally, Megan turned away. I understand one thing. For the first time in this conversation, Megan realized that I wouldn't back down. I turned towards the door. Before leaving, I said one last thing. "Megan." She didn't come back. "That house wasn't my victory." I paused for a second. "It's just the life I've worked so hard to get." Then I walked out of the apartment. But I didn't know then. This war is not over yet, because the next morning, I'm about to receive a call that will change everything again. The next morning, I woke up before the alarm clock went off. The clock shows 6:12. I lay in bed staring at the ceiling, trying to sort out everything that had happened in my head. The conversation with Megan last night is still very clear in my mind. For the first time, I saw my sister become less defensive, less confident than usual. But that didn't mean it was all over. Megan isn't the type of person who easily admits her mistakes. I went into the kitchen, made a cup of coffee, and opened my phone. No new messages, no new email received. Part of me hoped that after our conversation last night, Megan would stop, but the rest, the part that understands Megan better, knows that things are rarely that simple. Just then, the phone rang. The name appears on the screen. David, loan officer. My heart raced when I answered the phone. "Hello." "David." "Hi, Emily. I'd like to give you an update." I stood still in the kitchen. "Any news?" David spoke slowly. "We have reviewed all the documents you submitted yesterday." "Yes, financially. Everything is legitimate." I let out a sigh of relief, but David continued. "However, there is still one problem. I gripped the phone tightly. What's the problem? Your sister called back this morning. My heart sank. What did she say? David hesitated. She says that the $2,000 in your savings account is her money and you have no right to use it. I closed my eyes. Megan has taken the next step. David, I said. I can explain. I know. That's the money she temporarily transferred into my account 4 years ago. We understand. So why is this still a problem? David let out a soft sigh. Because she said she never allowed you to use that money. I looked out the window. The street outside started to get busy with traffic. An ordinary morning. Except my life is hanging in the balance. David, I said slowly, I'll transfer the $2,000 back to her today. There was a few seconds of silence on the other end of the line. Are you sure? Very certain. That would help resolve the dispute. I know, David continued, but we still need to confirm that she has no other complaints. I understand what you mean. He wants her to confirm it in writing. Correct. After hanging up, I put the phone down on the table. Megan's plan was clear. She doesn't need to prove that all the money is hers. She just needs to keep the dispute going long enough. Just make the bank slow down by a few days. The seller can cancel the transaction, and the house will disappear. I opened my banking apps. My savings account shows a balance of nearly $60. I switched to a payment account. Then enter the amount, $2,000. Recipient's name, Megan Carter. My finger paused for a few seconds before the button, sent. It's not about the money, because of its meaning. 4 years ago, I trusted Megan enough to keep her money safe. Now I'm returning it, just to protect my dream from my own sister. I pressed send. The transaction is complete. I immediately sent a message to Megan. I just transferred $2,000 back to you. Your money has been paid. Now you need to call the bank and confirm that there is no dispute. I put the phone down. 1 minute has passed. 2 minutes. 5 minutes. Finally, the phone vibrated. Message from Megan. I opened it. There's only one line. I've received the money. I looked at the screen. Wait a little longer. But there was no second message, no confirmation. There was no promise to call the bank. That's all. A chill ran down my spine. Megan received the money. But they never said they would stop. I picked up the phone again. I didn't text this time. I called Megan directly. Ring. Once. Twice. 3 times. Then voicemail popped up. Megan. They didn't answer the phone. I stood still in the kitchen. A truth is beginning to become clear. Amount $2,000. It was never a real problem. It's just an excuse. Megan used this as an excuse to keep the dispute going. And at that moment, I understood something that sent chills down my spine. Even if I return the money, Megan can still don't stop. And if that happens, then my contract signing date is only a few days away. 48 hours left. I stood in the kitchen for a long time after Megan didn't answer the phone. What's on my mind is no longer the house. It's not $2,000 either, but it's a simple truth, yet a painful one. Sometimes the people who hurt you the most are the very people you trust the most. For many years, I always thought that family was the safest place, a place where, no matter what happens, people will always stand by each other. But growing up has a lesson that no one teaches you beforehand. Not all family relationships are healthy. Not every action of a loved one stems from love. Sometimes it stems from fear of being left behind. I'm afraid of the feeling of losing, afraid to face my own life. Megan doesn't really want my house. She wants to feel that she's not falling behind. But what happens when someone tries to drag you down so they can feel better? That's no longer family affection. That is control. That evening, I realized something very important. Growing up isn't just about making money, buying a house, or building a career. Growing up also means learning how set boundaries, even with the people you love. Because if you don't do that, one day you will realize that you are living someone else's life, not your own. I looked at my phone again. Megan's last message is still there. I've received the money. No apology. No explanation. No promise to stop. And then I understood. There are people who don't change just because you hope they will. There are people who only stop when they no longer have control over you. I picked up my phone and sent one last email to David at the bank. I explained that the money had been refunded and there were no longer any financial disputes. I've attached the bank transfer confirmation. Then I closed my laptop. For the first time in days, I felt my mind was calmer, not because all the problems have been solved, because I did the right thing. Regardless of the final outcome of the home purchase transaction, I still hold on to something even more important. I kept it. The right to control one's own life. And sometimes, in life, that is the real victory, because money can be earned back. The house is available for resale, but your self-respect and boundaries, once lost, it will be very difficult to get it back again. And that is the biggest lesson this story leaves behind. This story is actually more than just about one house. It talks about beliefs, boundaries, and maturity. In life, we are often taught that family is the safest place. But as you grow up, you'll realize a truth that's harder to accept. Not all relationships are healthy. Even with your relatives, sometimes the people who hurt you don't do it because they hate you, because they are fighting against their own fears, jealousy, or feelings of failure. But the most important thing is, you cannot control other people's actions. You can only control how you react. This story leaves us with 3 very important lessons. The first, learn how setting boundaries, even with family. Love doesn't mean you have to accept being controlled or destroyed. Monday, don't let others decide the value of your life. What you build through effort and discipline, they deserve to be protected. And finally, maturity isn't always about winning against others, but it is. Don't let others drag you down. If you've ever experienced something similar, to be misunderstood by loved ones, to be sabotaged, or to be held back, remember that you are not alone. Many people out there are also learning how to stand up and protect their lives. Now, I want to ask you a question. If you find yourself in such a situation, will you choose forgiveness, or will you choose to keep your distance to protect yourself? Please share your thoughts in the comments section. And if you enjoy real-life stories like this, stories about family, trust, and growth, please subscribe to the channel so you don't miss the next stories.